This week's Dateline, has the budget made a cruel cut to the film and TV industry?
I was outraged.
Should prostitutes be given the green light?
I think we need to get up with the modern times.
Can simulators help avoid a devastating drought of workers?
It will have a large impact.
And the pioneer whose discovery lit up the state. Hello, I'm Ian Henschke and welcome to Stateline South Australia. Well, there's a good chance that any locally produced television you've seen this week on any station will have had some creative input from a graduate from Hamilton College's acclaimed Media and Production Skills course. For almost 30 years, it's turned out editors, directors and camera operators, and indeed virtually anyone else working in film and television. Well, now there are fears for the future of this course and others in the wake of the state government's budget changes.
It's not quite opening night, and there's definitely no red carpet. But for these film students, what's happening here and now is every bit as important.
I feel just the length and the distance of the shots kind of makes it lose a lot of energy.
They're all part of Hamilton College's Media Arts Production Skills course, or MAPS as it's better known. In front of the toughest audience of all, their peers, the latest films are being reviewed.
It is awful in some ways, but everybody goes through it, so I suppose there is that side to it, and you do learn a lot from it. And often at the time, if someone criticises your work, you might not feel too good about it, but when your film is better in the end, often you realise that it was worth it.
The school says its graduates work in film and television as directors, editors, designers and sound operators. In Andrew Kunzel's case, it's taken him to work on films such as Lord of the Rings, King Kong and I, Robot as a computer animator.
MAPS really was the thing that got me involved in computer animation to start out with. If it wasn't for MAPS, I don't think I would have had, I don't know if I would be where I am at the moment. I don't know if I'd be a computer animator.
One of his most recent works has just been shown on the ABC, Figaro Foe, winning an International Children's TV Award. But now MAPS coordinator Peter Thurmer says it's all under threat. In the recent state budget, the government changed the rules for funding of adult re-entry courses with a cut-off age of 21.
They've initially said that we'll cut people off at 21 and we'll have nobody going back into school. You don't get another chance to go back in. And you'll have to go through the TAFE system or the university system.
The grief the issue has caused is underlined by a letter sent from Federal Labor MP Steve Georgianis to State Education Minister Jay Weatherill, which in part says, "I feel strongly that the proposed cuts to adult secondary education will not be worth the short-term cost-cutting benefit." This week there was an about-face, allowing people over 21 to continue to receive subsidies to get their secondary school certificates. But Hamilton College says that won't apply to the MAPS course, or indeed any course that's outside the secondary school certificate. The college estimates students could be paying up to $9,000 for a course like MAPS, and Peter Thurmer says that means most of his students wouldn't be able to continue.
2012 is where all the change will come about, and we could continue, but we would be wholesalely modified. We'd have to make very, very big changes.
So we've had a look at this again, and I'm not sure about the sound quality.
33-year-old George Valiotis epitomises the different paths people take to MAPS. He worked as an educator in communicable diseases and domestic violence. But if the proposed changes were in place now, he says his dream would be over before it began.
I couldn't afford to do it at all. I don't qualify for any student support or anything else, so I have to support myself while I study. And so if the fees were any higher, I couldn't do it.
It's by no means the only film or media course in South Australia. The universities offer them, and according to the students, so does TAFE. But MAPS supporters insist there's nothing like this.
A lot of the people who are studying this year actually dropped out of all the other options that are available in South Australia and came here. So for me, that was the first thing that impressed me, that there's an indication that there's a real point of difference here. And the other thing is it's practical. Like, we just continually make films. It's absolutely based on the crafts and on doing them.
I think there's room actually for MAPS to go the opposite way to the way that they're pushing it. It should actually be expanding.
Ashley Page is another who came to MAPS as a mature age student, and she teaches here once a week, today helping Jonathan Baker with his film about kite surfing. Ashley Page's latest film was an adaptation of Adelaide author Peter Goldsworthy's short story The Kiss, and so she says more than just filmmakers will suffer.
Oh, I was outraged. I think it's really narrow-minded. It's very disappointing.
Education Minister Jay Weatherall says,
"The original purpose of adult re-entry schools was to provide a second chance to people who missed out on finishing school the first time around. The changes to adult re-entry are about refocusing these schools on young adults completing their schooling. This filmmaking course is not about finishing high school."
The students argue it doesn't make sense to make it harder to get a film career when the government is spending millions of dollars on a film hub at the old Glenside Hospital site. They argue it doesn't fit with the Adelaide Film Festival.
Being average is good, isn't it? Did you know if you're average, you're better off than most?
And speaking of festivals, Charlotte Hamlin's mockumentary, How to Be More Average, just won Best Short Film under 5 minutes at the Montreal Film Festival. And amongst the students at Hamilton College, Charlotte Hamlin says her film won another award last year.
Can you see how being average is better?
It was awarded the Mike Rann Award for Excellence in Filmmaking, and actually last year was the first year that we had that award at the school. He sponsored the award because he believed the school was doing such a good job for the state and for the industry, and I find it disappointing that he would give us such an honour like that and then make these changes this year.
We asked Mike Rann whether he still felt the school was doing a good job and would he continue to sponsor the award.
The Premier said he's happy to have the award continue to be presented in his name, however it's ultimately a decision for the school.
It is perhaps the worst cliché in filmmaking, but everyone loves a happy ending. At this stage though, it's not clear whether this story will get one.
And the adult re-entry colleges have asked the University of Adelaide's Associate Professor John Spear to do some number crunching on the changes. And Simon Royal asked him what he's found.
Well, what I've found is this is a classic false economy, I think. The benefit of the program to the nation from increased productivity and labour force participation is around about $70 million per annum. Now, the reduction to the budget is only around about $7 million, so the benefits are 7 times greater than the actual budget savings.
Now we saw, although the Minister won't describe it as a backflip, a change this week whereby people over 21 can continue to get a subsidy to finish off their secondary school education. Does that make it better?
Well, that only affects a relatively small number of people. The vast majority of people will still face substantial fees in the TAFE system of possibly $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and that'll represent a major barrier to entry, which is no doubt going to reduce the number of people who take second chance education. The other part of this program that perhaps is not well understood is that it's very well established within the school system. So the personnel, the environment, the culture in which this takes place has been extraordinarily successful, so it's very unlikely that it can be replicated in the TAFE system very well.
In finishing, does an education make people happy?
Oh, absolutely. It's fundamental to well-being, it's fundamental to our health, and it's fundamental to your career prospects.
John Spear, thanks very much for your time.
It's a pleasure.